All right, we're tying the Green Humpy. This is a really pretty fly, a little bit more technical than some of the easier ones, but I still think it's pretty easy. Not too many materials needed, and it turns out to be a really cool looking fly. You're gonna start with the thread wrap about a quarter way down the shank, and you're gonna tie all the way down. And because this is a green humpy, you can tie this with orange thread, it becomes an orange humpy. Yellow thread becomes a yellow humpy. Whatever you use as its base color gives the name and the real color pattern to this fly. So you're gonna build up a decent thread base with this color, knowing that this is gonna give some of the distinctive markings to this particular fly. Once you get a thread base down, you're gonna take some elk hair and put it into the stacker if you have a stacker. You're gonna have this hang out about an extra hook length behind the hook itself, measuring a little bit of that hanging out. And then with your thread, with some pinch knots, get it secured onto the hook itself. A few more wraps to get it to attach down and keep it from spinning. It definitely wants to. Some more stronger attaching loops, getting it attached, and it'll start to flay out a little bit. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed these videos. Let me know some tips and tricks you've learned tying this fly, and maybe some flies you want to see in the future. You can begin to wrap this all the way back, again giving some more green to the color scheme of this. And then once you get back to the front, you're not going to need any of these head parts, so you can go ahead and chop these extra pieces off. And then you'll take your thread and cover up this front part. You don't have to be too precise with it, because there's going to be some more elk hair going on top of this. Just giving some more green color to this green humpy. You'll take some more elk hair out of the stacker, and this is going to form the front part of this, and that's gonna give not just the wing but also the distinctive hump in the back of this. So go ahead and attach this similar to the back, trying to keep it on top of the hook, and a few loops to get it to sit as sturdy as you can on there. Once you're happy with it, you can get some more stronger loops attached to it. You're gonna go ahead and wind back, and then once you get to the back, you're gonna have to be able to differentiate what elk hair you just added and what's part of the tail. So it took me a little bit to figure out which was part of the tail, which was actually part of this extra part that's added. Once you're able to find which is which, you're gonna take the back part of the elk hair just added and fold it over the front, towards the front. And this is gonna give, again, the hump of the green humpy. And then you'll put some loops on here to attach this folded over portion. Make sure that tail is still sitting okay, and if you got a couple left over, you can snip those off if they got mixed up. Once you get the front part attached with a few loops of that fold over part, you're gonna trim the rest of this off. Try not to trim what's left in front for the actual wing. And then once you've got that part happy, you can get repositioned. You can put a few more loops to tie down the front part of that hump and give it a real strong attachment before beginning to form the front part of this wing. And you'll hold up the wing and give a few loops in front of this to help it to stand up, leaving some room behind that eye. And then once it's standing up, I took a bodkin, you can use whatever you want, and tried to split this wing in half as evenly as you can. And once you get it separated, I gave a little bit of a twist to each part of these elk hairs just to get them to want to be separate. And then you're going to take your thread and you're going to do a little bit of a figure 8 pattern around this wing to, number one, separate them, but also number two, give them a little bit of strength to stand up on their own. And so holding them, going around through the middle and giving a few wraps around each side of the wing together to give it two distinct separate wings standing up in front of this fly. And then a few more loops in front there. And then you're gonna take your hackle, both colors, and put the tail part of the hackle in between the two wings itself, just as a placeholder, and then put a few loops to attach it, again, right behind those two wings. You can trim off the parts it's hanging over that you don't need. It doesn't have to be too precise. The hackle itself is going to go both behind and in front of the wing, and it'll cover up any of those pieces that didn't get trimmed perfectly. And then you'll bring your thread back to the front part of this behind the eye, because once the hackle itself is done, you're going to use this thread to finish tying it off at the front part of this fly. You can use some hackle pliers or just your fingers. I used both on this, and a few wraps behind the wing and then a few wraps in front of the wing to finish the distinctive pattern of this particular fly. Once you get your desired amount of wraps, you're gonna put some loops on the front part of this to tie it off, keeping that thread behind the eye. And then once you get enough tension on there, you can trim off the parts of the hackle that you don't need anymore. And then you gotta do some adjusting, make sure it sits fine, and then you can get your whip finisher, put some whip finishes again behind that eye, tying this all the way down. And there you have the Green Humpy. You can trim off any loose pieces with your fingers and enjoy fishing with this one. I think this will be a fun fly to fish with. Hope you enjoyed this one. Hope to see you on the next one. Happy tying.